Welcome to another deep dive. This time, you guys have sent us Professor Richard Klaproth's memoir, Seri Soul Accelerator. It's a buckle up because we're going deep into his memories, his unique understanding of love, and how it all ties into his spiritual journey.
Yeah, it's quite the journey indeed. Professor Klaproth's ability to recall his life in vivid detail, starting from infancy, is truly remarkable. Imagine being able to access the very earliest moments of your life, like your own personal time machine.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. He describes moments from his birth with such clarity,
Mhm.
even recalling the doctor's face and his parents' initial reactions. Most of us can barely remember what we had for breakfast.
Yeah.
Um, it's all thanks to hyperthymesia, a condition that gives him almost perfect recall. It's no wonder those early experiences played such a huge role in his understanding of love and his constant search for its purest form.
Hmm. It's as if he's experiencing life on another level, with an intensity that most of us can only imagine. And that intensity is evident in his recollections of events that would be formative for anyone, but even more so for someone with hyperthymesia. For example, he describes his father returning from war when he was just 14 months old.
Wow, try to picture that. A young child in a war-torn city, suddenly confronted with a stranger at the door. A stranger who happens to be his father, but a father who looks completely different, with a beard, a mustache,
Yeah.
and carrying a weapon. No wonder he was terrified.
Oh, naturally. He ran to his mother, seeking comfort and protection from this intimidating figure, but instead of immediately soothing her frightened son, his mother embraced the soldier, her husband. It's a powerful moment that highlights the complex dynamics within the family, especially in a time of war and uncertainty.
That's heartbreaking, really. He later reflects on this moment as feeling like an unwanted child, which shows just how impactful those early experiences of seeking love and not receiving it in the way he expected were.
Yeah. This sense of yearning for a deeper understanding of love becomes a driving force throughout his life. He's constantly testing the boundaries, seeking validation, trying to comprehend what it means to be truly loved. And that brings us to the fascinating role books played in his development.
Right. His mother, a librarian, curated his reading list from a very young age. He devoured books like the Bible, Winnetou, Rama, and Shinta,
Yeah.
and even the Bhagavad Gita, all before he turned 10. It's as if each book became a mirror, reflecting back to him different stages of his moral and spiritual development.
His experience with the Bhagavad Gita at age 9 is particularly interesting. He describes feeling this overwhelming yearning for God, a longing so intense it kept him awake at night. Why do you think this particular text resonated so deeply with him at such a young age?
Maybe it was the philosophical depth, the exploration of duty and destiny. Or perhaps it was the yearning for a connection with something larger than himself, especially during a time when his world felt so uncertain. Remember, this is a child who has already experienced the trauma of war and grappled with complex feelings about his parents' love. It's as if he's seeking answers in these ancient texts, trying to make sense of his own existence and the world around him.
It's a powerful example of how our early experiences, combined with the ideas we encounter, can shape our entire worldview. And speaking of formative experiences, we can't overlook the pudding incident. This seemingly small event provides a fascinating glimpse into the development of his moral reasoning.
Okay, let's unpack this. His mother makes his father's favorite meal, liver and chocolate pudding. Young Klaproth, still unable to speak at age 5, is mesmerized by the pudding, but his mother tells him it's strictly for his father. Remember, this is only a few years after that intense scene with his father returning from war, so the dynamics of parental love are still very much on his mind.
He's already wrestling with these questions of love, worthiness, and who deserves what.
Exactly. And then he does something that, on the surface, seems like a simple act of defiance. Driven by a desire to test the depths of his father's love, he eats all the pudding. And I mean, every last bit.
A bold move. And what's truly fascinating is that he isn't motivated by a childish craving for sweets. This isn't about the pudding itself. He's consciously choosing to test a boundary to see if his father's love will hold strong even when he misbehaves.
And when confronted, he refuses to confess, even when offered leniency. He sticks to his story, blaming ants for the missing pudding. Professor Klaproth actually reflects on this as his first moral decision, one that profoundly shaped his approach to life and spirituality.
It's not just a child trying to avoid getting in trouble. This is about understanding the nature of love. Will his father still love him even if he's disobedient, even if he lies? It's a question that goes far beyond a missing dessert. It touches upon his yearning for unconditional love and acceptance.
And this experience becomes a lens through which he later examines religious concepts like forgiveness and divine mercy. It's almost as if he's questioning the very foundations of these beliefs. seeking a deeper understanding of what it means to be truly loved without conditions.
And this yearning for unconditional love becomes even more profound as he faces the consequences of his actions, the punishment from his father, which he describes as being locked away in a dark shed, left him feeling utterly abandoned. This isolation becomes the breeding ground for a remarkable development, the emergence of his inner voice, mea cara.
Here's where things get really interesting. Mea Cara becomes his constant companion, offering guidance and support throughout his life. Imagine navigating the complexities of childhood, adolescence, and adulthood with this inner voice as your confidant.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about the nature of consciousness and resilience. Did the intensity of his early experiences, combined with his hyperthymesia, somehow contribute to the development of this inner dialogue? It's as if his mind created mea cara to provide the love and understanding he wasn't consistently receiving from the outside world.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thought. Mea Cara seems to represent his deepest self, the part of him that yearns for connection, meaning, and a love that transcends the limitations of human relationships. And it's interesting how this internal dialogue continues to evolve as he grows older. As a teenager, he faces another profound moment of spiritual turmoil, this time triggered by an accident that leaves him consumed by guilt and shame.
It's as if he's reliving that feeling of abandonment, questioning his own worthiness of love and forgiveness. But once again, mea cara offers comfort, guidance, and this time, something extraordinary, a vision.
A vision.
Yeah.
A vision of a future companion.
Yes.
Someone destined to understand and love him unconditionally. Oh, wow. It's a glimmer of hope amidst his despair. A promise of a love that mirrors the divine love he's seeking.
And this idea of a destined connection becomes a recurring theme in his life. Years later, during another time of crisis, he receives a message that seems to confirm this preordained bond. He describes it as a message from an angelic being, offering words of comfort and reassurance.
Wow, and what's even more remarkable is the content of the message. It speaks of being woven into the same tapestry, of a connection that transcends physical limitations and emotional turmoil. It's like a validation of his lifelong search, a confirmation that he's not alone in his yearning for true love.
It's a powerful testament to the enduring power of love, the interconnectedness of human experience, and the possibility that our deepest longings might find their fulfillment in ways we can't even imagine. But let's go back to mea cara for a moment. We've talked about its guidance and support, but I'm curious about the mechanics of this inner voice. How does it actually manifest? What does this dialogue look like?
That's a great question. Professor Klaproth doesn't explicitly describe the nature of the voice or how it communicates. He simply states that it's been with him since that moment of isolation in the shed. But we can glean some insights from his reflections. He mentions that family and friends often noticed him talking to himself from a young age, which suggests that mea cara wasn't just an internalized thought process, it manifested as an actual voice, audible to others.
So it wasn't just a figment of his imagination, it was a tangible presence in his life, shaping his interactions and perceptions. And given his hyperthymesia, it's intriguing to consider how vivid memory might have influenced this internal dialogue. Could it be that his heightened recall gave mea cara a richness and depth that wouldn't be possible for someone with ordinary memory?
It's a fascinating possibility.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to replay entire conversations, relive key moments, and access a vast library of sensory experiences. Perhaps this constant immersion in his own memories contributed to the development of this complex inner world and the emergence of mea cara as a distinct entity.
Yeah, it's as if his mind became a stage, and mea cara, a character in the ongoing drama of his life.
Exactly. Now, moving on to his adult reflections, Professor Klaproth talks about undergoing a Soul Accelerator program. This program seems to have been a catalyst for deeper self-awareness and a reinterpretation of his life's journey through the unique lens of hyperthymesia.
He delves into various aspects of his past, including his inability to speak until the age of 7, which he links to the trauma of his father returning from war and his mother's reaction. He suggests that this early silence profoundly shaped his understanding of emotions, communication, and even his heightened sensitivity to the unspoken needs of others. It's fascinating how he connects those early experiences to his later choices, like how he encouraged his own children to express themselves freely, even before they could speak fluently.
It shows a real awareness of the impact those formative years had on him and a conscious effort to create a different experience for his children. And then there's his reflection on hyperthymesia itself. He realizes that his incredibly detailed memories aren't just a quirk, but a fundamental part of who he is and how he experiences the world. He even mentions seeing colors associated with certain sounds.
That's synesthesia, where senses intertwine. Imagine hearing music and seeing a burst of colors, or tasting a word. It's often associated with heightened creativity and unusual cognitive processes.
It makes you wonder what it's like to perceive the world through that lens, with such a vibrant and interconnected sensory experience.
He seems to suggest that his hyperthymesia, synesthesia, and the constant presence of miyakara have all contributed to his relentless search for truth and meaning. It's as if these elements combine to create a heightened sense of awareness, an insatiable curiosity about the nature of existence and the mysteries of the human heart.
It's like he's been on this quest his entire life, driven by a desire to understand love, to find his place in the world, and to unravel the secrets of his own unique consciousness. And this brings us back to the central theme of his memoir, the search for true love. It's not just about romantic love, it's about understanding the depths of love in all its forms: parental love, spiritual love, love for humanity.
And what's intriguing is his rejection of mercy and forgiveness. He sees them as somehow diminishing the inherent worthiness of the individual, as if true love requires conditions or prerequisites. He wants to be loved for who he is, flaws and all, without the need for pardon or absolution.
It's a radical concept, isn't it, to reject the very notions of forgiveness and mercy, especially within a spiritual context. What do you make of this perspective?
It's certainly thought-provoking. On one hand, you could argue that true love should encompass acceptance and understanding, regardless of past mistakes. On the other hand, forgiveness and mercy are often seen as essential components of spiritual growth and healing. To completely reject these concepts raises some interesting questions about the nature of love, justice, and the possibility of redemption.
It's almost as if he's challenging traditional religious dogma, pushing us to re-examine our own beliefs about love, forgiveness, and the conditions we place on our relationships.
Yeah, it's definitely a point worth pondering. And this brings us to his teenage years and a pivotal event that profoundly shapes his understanding of love and spirituality. He describes an accident that leaves him consumed by guilt and shame, prompting him to question his worthiness of love, not just from his parents, but from something larger, something more universal.
So he's grappling with spiritual turmoil, wondering if he's deserving of divine love and forgiveness.
Right, and once again, Miyakura steps in, offering solace and a vision. This time, it's the vision of a future companion, someone who will understand him deeply and love him unconditionally. It's a vision that echoes his yearning for a love that mirrors the divine, a love that transcends human limitations and societal judgments.
This vision becomes a beacon of hope in his darkest hour, a reminder that even amidst guilt and shame, there's a possibility for connection, belonging, and a love that sees beyond imperfections. And years later, during another period of emotional turmoil, he receives a message that seems to confirm this destined connection. He describes it as a message from an angelic being, offering words of comfort and reassurance.
The message is incredibly profound. We were meant to be together, and I believe that we would never lose each other, no matter what challenges we faced. We are in the same and one tapestry, and feeling lonely is the biggest illusion.
Wow. It's as if his lifelong search for love, understanding, and spiritual connection is culminating in this moment. The message validates his experiences, soothes his anxieties, and reinforces the belief that he's not alone in his journey.
It's a beautiful testament to the power of hope and the possibility that our deepest yearnings might find their fulfillment in unexpected ways. But it also raises some intriguing questions. Who is this destined companion? Is it a real person, a spiritual entity, or perhaps a symbolic representation of his own integrated self?
It's a mystery that Professor Klaproth leaves unanswered, inviting us to ponder the nature of love, connection, and the mysteries of the human heart.
Yeah, it's a question that lingers as we reach the end of Seri Soul Accelerator. Professor Klaproth reflects on the various labels he's been given throughout his life: son of the devil, blues man for all seasons, and lucky man. It's as if he embodies this inherent duality, embracing both the light and shadow within himself and the world around him.
Yeah, it's a theme that runs throughout his narrative, isn't it? The constant interplay of opposing forces, good and evil, love and abandonment, justice and mercy. It makes me think about his rejection of mercy and forgiveness. Do you think it stems from those early experiences? Particularly the incident with the pudding and his subsequent punishment.
It's certainly possible. Remember, he felt a sense of abandonment when his mother chose to comfort his father instead of him. Later, he was punished for testing his father's love. These experiences could have contributed to his view of mercy as conditional, as something that implies a need for correction or atonement. Perhaps he's seeking a love that transcends those limitations, a love that accepts without judgment or the need for absolution.
So instead of seeking forgiveness, he's seeking understanding. Instead of mercy, he desires acceptance. It's a challenging concept, but one that speaks to his deep yearning for a love that sees the whole person, flaws and all.
Exactly. And it connects back to his unique understanding of spirituality. He's not necessarily rejecting traditional religious beliefs, but he's certainly questioning their limitations,
Yeah.
seeking a deeper, more personal connection to something greater than himself.
It's like he's forging his own path, one shaped by his intense memories, his ongoing dialogue with Miyakera, and his unwavering pursuit of truth and love.
And that, I think, is the most powerful takeaway from Professor Kleproth's memoir. His story reminds us that the journey of self-discovery is a lifelong process, filled with unexpected twists and turns. It's a journey that requires us to confront our deepest fears and desires, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the complexities of our own experiences.
Well, this deep dive has certainly left me with a lot to think about. What does it mean to truly love unconditionally? How do our early experiences shape our perceptions of love, justice, and spirituality? And how can we cultivate a deeper sense of connection and belonging within ourselves and the world around us?
Professor Klaproth's memoir doesn't offer easy answers, but it provides a framework for exploring these essential questions. His journey is a testament to the power of introspection, the importance of listening to our inner voice, and the possibility of finding love and meaning in unexpected places. And perhaps that's what makes his story so compelling. It's an invitation to embrace the mystery, to keep searching, and to trust that even amidst the complexities of life, there's a profound beauty waiting to be discovered.
Well said. I think you've given us a lot to ponder. So, to our listeners, as you continue your own journey of self-discovery, remember to embrace those unique experiences that have shaped you. Keep questioning, keep seeking, and never underestimate the power of your own story. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.